So in the following video, I was only 3.5 weeks into my carnivore journey. I'd started with the 30-day challenge and I wasn't quite at the 30-day point yet, but I was already feeling so much better than I was before. Obviously, it's a bit later on now and things have changed. I'm now 6 months into my carnivore journey and feeling amazing in every way. So in every kind of aspect of my health and of my lived experience, I feel better. Much better. And it's just going to keep improving from here. I don't know how, but I know that it's just going to keep getting better from here. So although this video was filmed when I was only 3.5 weeks in and still figuring some stuff out, there's some really good information in the video that's just a really good place to start. So even though I'm now 6 months in, I don't want to refilm. I want to keep that as it is and share that with all of you so that you can get the same information that I was getting and have some of the same insights that I was having at the time. But I did just want to jump on before you watch that video to let you know that I'm now at 6 months and it's awesome. I'm feeling great. And even my friend who I mentioned in the video who went onto the carnivore diet with me, he's also feeling great. He's just going to keep improving. He's managed to lose 30 kilos in a 6-month period, which is amazing. And he's still losing weight. It's still coming off. And like all of his health concerns, the stuff that I was just seeing drive him into the grave, has almost completely just reversed and has turned around and is heading in the other direction. So I love that. I love seeing him and the people around me kind of thriving from this way of eating as well. So obviously for me, a lot has changed. My health has improved, but not just my physical health, my cognition, the mental clarity, even my meditation, everything and anything about my experience has improved since coming onto this diet. I'm even at a point now where I feel, I guess, healthy enough that I've got myself a coach who's getting me literally fighting fit, which is something that I didn't have the energy reserves for before. But it got to a point, probably about 3 months in, where I just went, I am ready. My body wants to move. I've got so much energy. I've got so much available to me. I'm ready to get fit and like really get fit. And that's been a really fun thing for me. Something good that has been added to my life. So just in every way, you might be able to see a difference in me between how I am now and how I am in the video that you're about to watch. And like I have lost weight as well, obviously not 30 kilos, and my intention wasn't to lose weight. It was to experience and explore the potential health benefits and see what this is all about. And I wouldn't want to lose 30 kilos, but I've lost maybe like 14 centimeters off my hips and about 8 centimeters off my waist, and I just feel better. I feel like I'm actually thriving. And you don't realize how not good you feel until you have something to compare it to. Because I was never unhealthy. I was taking care of myself. I was relatively fit, and my diet was clean according to how a diet should be clean from a standard naturopathic perspective. And I'd always taken care of myself. There wasn't anything crippling about my health that I really felt that I needed to address. But changing my diets and changing my approach to life, because really it becomes a way of life. It's a different way of working with your body, a different way of working with nature, a different way of connecting with yourself, with all the different parts of yourself, because you have to be so in tune. You have to be so keyed into your body and what your body is telling you. It's a different way. It's a different kind of approach to everything. And I feel better than I have ever felt before. And I've tried everything as a naturopath. I did the raw vegan thing. I did the vegan thing. I did the vegetarian thing for years. I've done the health food thing. I've done it all. I've tried everything. And I've never felt this good. And I've never seen myself just continue to improve in all of those things that really matter to me in the way that I am at the moment. So I'm convinced. I'm not saying that you need to be convinced. I just want to share this information with you and make it available to you and get you maybe thinking about things in a different kind of way. But I will never go back to how I was eating before. I'm going to stay a fat burner for the rest of my life. I'm not going to go back to being a glucose storer. And that's just where I feel best. So enjoy the video. Learn lots. Let yourself be confronted. Let some of your old ways of thinking about things be challenged. And then do your own research and see how it feels to you. Hey guys, Amy here. I know it's been a while, a long while. And today I want to bring you something a little bit different, and I will admit a little bit nervous about bringing this because it feels a little bit like the naturopathic community and the health gurus and health nuts might condemn me a little bit, but it feels important that I just kind of update as I go for my sake, because I want to keep a record, but also just in case there's anything here that's actually helpful to any of you. So probably about 4 weeks ago, I first heard of the carnivore diet. So people using this diet of just animal products. And the way that I originally heard of it was the lion diet, which is just eating beef, salt, and water to heal a whole plethora of different ailments and conditions, and for weight loss, and to address a whole bunch of stuff that, quite honestly, has kind of perplexed me as a naturopath and as a healthcare worker when I've seen clients present with this stuff. Now, when I first heard of this, I was horrified. When I first heard that this is what people were doing, I was gobsmacked, and I was confused, and I was concerned, and it just kind of was jarring. It went against everything that I thought that I knew about health. Now, to start with, I did not plunge into exploring or trying to understand or look at the science of how this works. What I did do is I looked at what came to me was just several success stories of people literally turning around, doing a 360 with their health. The things that they've struggled with, things that are supposedly not meant to be able to be cured, things that they couldn't shift, things that no one could help them with. And by changing their diet over to either the lion diet or the carnivore diet, which includes all meats and all animal products, though in the correct amounts, and they were just getting these phenomenal, incredible results. And it seems that every case that I looked at was a positive experience, and I was gobsmacked. So, but I wanted to understand, and I didn't want to understand what everyone else was saying. I wanted to understand for myself and to feel in my own body how this could be possible, because what we're told is that our health comes from the plant foods that we eat. What I was taught is that that's it, that's where the vitality, that's where the health, that's where the healing comes from, and then the meat and stuff is just like an extra thing that you include, but you're careful with it because it's toxic in higher doses, it's inflaming, it's difficult on the body, it's hard on the liver, it's hard on the kidneys, and a whole bunch of other stuff. It causes heart conditions, it raises blood pressure, a whole bunch of stuff that I'd learnt about meat that had me thinking and believing that it needs to be something that you only take in moderation. And in fact, you don't actually need meat. What I'd been taught and what I'd come to understand is that everything that you need, you can get from the plant foods. And we'll get to that because I'll talk a bit about my own personal experience with that and how I've understood that that's actually not true. That's actually not the case. So at first I was horrified, but it wouldn't leave me. It just kept coming back to me. And I have a really good relationship with my body where I communicate with my body, I listen to my body, and that's a lot of what I teach my clients as well, is how to get back in touch with your body and how to communicate with it and listen to what it's telling you, because these things are intelligent. They know what they need. They know how they work much better than we do. Everything that's happening in this body is knowable. It's understandable. It's feelable because it's happening in your body. Your nervous system, your endocrine system is keeping track of everything that's happening inside you. So if we reconnect with the body, then we can feel that stuff. We can reconnect with that stuff. The body will tell us what it needs. It'll tell us when it needs to eat. It'll tell us what's going to heal it and where the medicine is. And the body communicates with us constantly if we listen. So I have a good relationship with my body where I've developed that, and we do things together, and we understand things together, and my body's constantly showing me stuff that's happening internally for me, but for other people. So with my clients as well, their bodies will start showing me stuff, or my body will show me how this is possible, that this thing is happening in this person's body. And it's like understanding the biochemical processes that are happening in the body, but also the psycho-emotional processes as well, because I really, really believe that our physical condition is directly dictated by and impacted by our psycho-emotional health, what we're feeling, what we're not feeling, mostly what we're suppressing and avoiding and denying and judging, and then how that kind of manifests in the physical body as a last resort, as a last port of call. Come on, deal with this. You got to feel this. You got to experience this. You got to heal this and let this go, so that the physical body can be free of this extra kind of psycho-emotional load that manifests through the nervous system and the endocrine system. Cortisol's key here. Love that cortisol. So I wanted to understand. So instead of delving into what everyone else was saying, I just kind of left it with my body. I was like, I don't get this. I don't understand this. If this is a legitimate thing, show me. And this is what I did all through my studies as well. When a new biochemical process was put to me, or we were exploring a new organ, or how different things were working in the body, I'd kind of put it to my body and go, I don't get it. Show me. And it would show me the biochemical processes and the cascading effects and the different things that were happening in the body so that I could understand. And then all of a sudden it would be like this jigsaw puzzle with pieces all over the place. And then they'd fall into place, and I would understand something, and it just became knowledge to me, something that I could access, I could tweak, I could play with. And so I had this kind of constantly expanding and developing and tweaking puzzle of the human body and human health that's obviously constantly still developing, because some more pieces have just recently fallen into place that are a bit flabbergasting, but the evidence says, the experience says, it's there, it's happening, it's working. So I left it with my body, and it just kept coming to me. And my training, my background as a naturopath with a Bachelor of Health Science is in biochemistry, human biology, nutrition, and phytochemistry. Mostly, that's the main thing. And then there are other things like pharmacotherapy and other stuff on top of that. But those are the four main things. So it's all about the biochemical processes. It's all about the biology. It's all about understanding interactions and understanding the chemical components of plants and nutrients and different things. So I have that background knowledge there. I have that background experience in being able to extrapolate and understand in this kind of way. So what I found was that my body, using this knowledge that I already have, using this experience that I already have, started to show me a different way that human nutrition, human biology, and human biochemistry works. And I started to have this really bizarre, it was almost trippy, this bizarre experience where I started to understand that the body can run in these different modes. And it was like there's this whole other kind of human that you can become if you cut out all the stuff that we're eating that currently fuels our body in the modern Western diet, and you switch over to running on fat and building your body out of protein. And this all made sense to me because of how I understand that the body works, but it just had never really occurred to me. My approach to eating, my approach to nutrition has always been kind of have a little bit of everything, keep your body tolerant to things, because I have found that people who cut back on things become really sensitive to stuff. And so my conclusion was, well, have little bits of all sorts of things in your diet so that you can handle it, and so that you can enjoy your food, and so you can be in love with what you're eating, and so you can best absorb all these various nutrients from right across the board, because that's going to be your best chance of getting at least a little bit of all the various nutrients and things that you need into your body. Because what I was taught as part of my studies and my degree as well is we were taught about anti-nutrients. We were taught that various things conflict with various other things, and that if you're eating this, then you can't absorb this, and too much of this blocks the absorption of that and causes the body to reject that. And so I knew about anti-nutrients. I knew that things shouldn't be taken together or can't be absorbed together, and I already knew that, I understood that. But the conclusion in naturopathic and nutritional medicine seems to be, well, if that's the case, then have more. Have more of it, have a broader range of it, make sure that you're meeting those RDIs, and make sure that you're just having more of those things to increase your chance of getting those nutrients into your body. I also knew about the toxicity of plants. That's something that we're very open about in nutritional studies, where we know that plants are riddled with toxins and with carcinogens and things that the body cannot absorb. Even the understanding of fiber. We know that the reason that you eat fiber is just to bulk up. You can't actually absorb fiber, but we place so much importance and stress the significance of it and stress the health benefits of it. But when I started to see things in this different way, it was like, well, that's just one mode. That's just one way that the body can function, but it doesn't seem to be optimal. As I see it a lot, these people that are eating all the right things, a lot of my clients, it's like, oh, I can't fault your diet. It seems to be perfect, but the biological and even emotional results are not representative of what they're eating or what you would expect as a result of the kind of diet that they're consuming. And I've been baffled by this with various clients, where it's like, I don't know, we'll keep working at it, and we always make improvements, and we can always adjust things, and there's always something that we can do, but there's some stuff that's like, I don't know why it isn't shifting. And I started to see, and my body started to show me that when you're constantly bombarded with a whole bunch of stuff all the time, right across the board, all of these various nutrients that are conflicting with each other, and all of these processed foods that contain all of this stuff that actually isn't food, it's anti-food, and you've got this really broad stretch and this huge spectrum of different things that you're eating, then it's stressful for the body. I mean, of course it's stressful for the body. The body has its requirements and it has what it needs, but if we're dumping all of this varied stuff at every meal into our bodies, and we're doing it constantly, then the body's constantly having to work through all of that stuff. Discard the toxins, try to absorb that little thing of that thing that it needs, but oh whoops, you accidentally put the wrong mineral in or wrong vitamin in, and now I can't absorb that thing. And we have to produce so many and have ready to go so many different kinds of enzymes and digestive juices and bacteria, and there's just so much that needs to be maintained. It's this really fine line that needs to be walked, and it's stressful for the body. And my body started to show me this. Think of all the enzymes that I have to have stored ready to go, just in case you eat that thing that you haven't eaten for a while, or that you sometimes like to chuck in with your meals, or just in case there's some kind of toxin or processed food that I can't actually break down. And my body started to show me that the way we use fat in these two different modes is very different. So in that typical Western way of eating, the way that our body uses fat when we're running on carbs and sugar, because everything's broken down, I've been taught, into glycogen, is broken down into various kinds of sugars that the body then runs on. And when we're running on carbs and sugars, the way that the body uses fat is it uses fat as a defense mechanism. So rather than absorbing, and the way of dealing with these nutrients and vitamins and chemicals and toxins and things that can't be absorbed, is the body uses fat to store that stuff. It's like, I can't deal with this, or there's too much of this, or I actually need this. So we use the fat as a storage mechanism, as a protective mechanism, to kind of shunt things away in the body that the body can't deal with, or that's too much of a load for the body. And so when we're running on carbs and sugar, what I've started to feel and to understand is that the body is in fat storage mode. It also doesn't know if it's going to get the nutrients that it needs, so it stores fat for it stores fat for a bunch of things, but it stores fat for reserves. When our hormones are out of whack, because these anti-nutrients and chemicals and toxins and things knock our hormones around, then the body starts storing fat so that it can produce hormones in the fat cells stored in the body, rather than producing hormones out in the open where they can actually be used. So hormones get stored in fat cells. We start storing fat as a way of like dealing with high or low cortisol levels when we're in constant stress environments. And this stress is such an important part of it, because it's rampant in this day and age, and so many people are just flying through life riding on their cortisol levels, and that knocks digestion around. It knocks around your body's ability to absorb any of the nutrients that are actually going into it. And so the body just goes into fat storage mode. It uses fat as a way of storing. It uses fat as a way of reducing inflammation, of producing hormones, and it uses fat in a way, it's like a survival use of fat. But what my body started to show me is that if you remove all of those really difficult foods, if you remove that complexity of foods and all those various anti-nutrients and nutrients that are just so broad and so many and so much, then the body's capable of switching over to using fat in a very different kind of way. And what my body started to show me is that you can run on fat. And really all you need is the fat and the protein to keep the body running. And what I started to understand as well is that all of those nutrients that we need, they're not, and we know this, they're not anti-nutrients, and they're not in a conflicting mode or in conflicting amounts in animal protein, in animal meat. We know this, that they're there. These minerals, these vitamins, these trace minerals, everything that we need is in the animal protein and not in conflicting amounts, not in unabsorbable amounts. And so what I started to understand is that if you flip over to this other way of eating, it's like it's not just a different way of eating, it's an entirely different way that the body functions and that the body can run. You become a different kind of human, where what you're doing in the way that your body works is you're eating your protein and your fat-heavy meals, and your body literally switches over to just running on fat, running purely on fat, running all of your processes, all your biological processes, all of it ends up being run on fat. And our bodies are able to do that. Fat is a very easy way of producing energy. So it's easy for our bodies to run in that way. It's just difficult because we're so used to running our bodies on carbohydrates and sugars found in artificial foods, but found in plant foods as well. So it's just like this switch that I started to understand could happen. And when your body's running on fat, then it just uses the protein to build all of your cells. All of the structural stuff starts to be built out of protein, which it is anyway, but it's just more readily available protein. So healing can happen, cell mitosis can happen, the production of neural pathways, and even the production of red blood cells and a whole bunch of stuff that is protein based. It becomes much simpler because the protein is more freely available and your body's just using the fat to do everything else. So you switch out of fat storage mode into fat burning mode. You run on fat. And then you get all the minerals and vitamins and things that you need in non-conflicting and non-stressful amounts from the flesh of the animals. And I was still quite horrified. But I was starting to understand it. It was starting to make sense to me. My body was starting to show me how it could feel to switch to this other mode. And the other thing that my body started to show me as well, and this is something that's frustrated me with natural medicine. Normal medicine frustrates me even more, but something that's always frustrated me with natural medicine is that it's like when we need the natural herbal medicine, and bear with me because this is where I might lose the carnivores, but there's something in this. So we're told, let's use garlic as an example. We're told that garlic is highly antimicrobial and highly antibacterial, and there's a whole bunch of other herbs, and I just use liquid herbs. It's not whole plant consuming herbs, so there is a place for that, and this is how medicine has been done through the ages and for a long time, where we've used plants as medicine. And what's frustrated me about it is that, well, how can garlic be antimicrobial and be antibacterial and do its job properly when we're exposed to garlic all the time? And I started to understand and to really feel that when the body's exposed to a whole bunch of things all the time, this is another thing that the fat does, we store in our fat little bits of everything so that the body is adapted to it. So if you're going to have a poison, if you're going to be consuming a poison all of the time, it's going to be a daily thing, or it's going to be something that happens even sporadically, then the first time you consume that poison, and this is the way our immune systems work, your body grabs hold of a little bit of it and kind of stores it in the tissue, stores it in the fat, stores it in its memory bank, so that when it encounters that poison again, it's got a little bit of it in it, so it's not as sensitive to it. It's built a robustness to it. It's built an ability to be able to handle that particular poison and to manage it in a different kind of way because it's done it before. It's stored that memory. It's got a little bit of it in it all the time. It's at a level that makes it a little bit immune to it when it comes in again. And this is something that we're doing with our foods all of the time. Our bodies are storing little bits of this, little bits of that, little bits of that chemical, little bits of that toxin, little bits of that poison, little bits of all these different foods that we're eating to desensitize ourselves to them when they come into our bodies. Because if our diets were just pure, then the introduction, and a lot of carnivores experience this, your diet's pure, you've cut it all the way back, so your body has released any toxins or anything that is stored in it to desensitize itself to the environment and to the food that you're eating. It's gotten rid of that. So when you eat something unusual, or you eat something a little bit poisonous, or you eat something that you don't normally eat, then your body has this big reaction and this big response to it because it's not desensitized to it in the same way. So we use our fat to do that. We use our fat cells to store all of these little memories and all of these little bits and bobs of all these different things that we're exposed to all of the time, to desensitize our bodies, so that when we're consuming or we're exposed to these things, it's not knocking us around. It's not having a huge and enormous effect on us. And I've always felt this, and I felt this with the plant medicines as well. It's like, well, we're exposed to so much all of the time, and I understand that there's this particular phytochemical in that particular plant that's potentially helpful or beneficial in a case of ill health, but how does your body use it? Like, it's got so much else that it's exposed to and so much else going on in it. It's exposed to antimicrobial, antibacterial, immune supporting, immune suppressing, all sorts of stuff all of the time. How can that little amount of that thing have any real and significant effect? And it just felt to me like the potency, it's always felt to me like the potency of our medicines has been lost. It's been lost on us. And there were times where you'd be in a battle and you'd get a cut and your wound would become infected, and you could crush up a little bit of garlic for the sake of medicine and put it on it or take it internally, and it would actually have an effect. But in this day and age, we're so exposed to antibiotics and all sorts of stuff that also desensitizes our body. Those little bits of plant medicine, as they're needed along the way, aren't having the big effect in the body that they potentially could be having. And so what I started to understand as part of this exploration as well is that, well, if you cut your diet right back to basics and you're just eating those animal proteins and you're not exposing your body to all of these various toxins and all of these phytochemicals and even medicinal chemicals, and if you're not putting that stuff into your body constantly, then when and if the time comes that you need that plant support, you won't be sensitized or desensitized to it. And then when you put that phytochemical into or onto your body, the response is going to be huge. It's going to be significant because you're not in a desensitized state. So what I started to understand and to feel is that even our natural medicines, when we need them, and remember, this is where our ancestors' medicines came from if they needed them, and perhaps they didn't need them. And when you're eating in this way, what I've discovered as well is that you won't need them. You won't need them as much. When you're full of toxins and you're full of chemicals and you're full of anti-nutrients and you're full of inflammation and your immune system isn't working properly and your bacteria is having a fight with itself in your guts and your nervous system can't build neural pathways, then you become ill. Of course you become ill. Your body is in an inflamed state. So you need more, and that's what so many people are doing. They just need more and more and more. And I see so many of my clients, and I've always under-prescribed. That's always been my thing. Don't let the body become dependent on external things. You should be able to produce stuff internally, and your diet should work for you. And your connection with nature and all of that stuff is a huge and significant part of that. And again, your mental health, your psycho-emotional experience. So I've never been an over-prescriber, but I have clients that come to see me and they just want to add more and more and more on top, because what they're taking, their body becomes desensitized to it. And it's like with anything, it's like with alcohol as well, your body becomes desensitized to it. So then you need more, has to be more extreme or more complex. And so a lot of what I've always done is cut it right back to basics, and then only introduce the things that you need as you need them, stay on them for as long as you need, and then let the body take over. The body's meant to take over, the body's meant to produce that stuff. But I have a lot of clients, it's like we can't shift them off we can't shift them off the external support. We can't shift them off the extra minerals and vitamins and amino acids. We prescribe amino acids so much. Just eat them. And we can't shift them off this stuff because their bodies have become dependent, but also their bodies aren't in a state where they can produce that stuff for themselves, or they can use that stuff from the food that they're eating efficiently because they're in this fat storage mode, or they're in inflammation control mode. So what I'm talking about when you switch to this other mode is that you are in a state where you can absorb properly. And what you find with the animal proteins and with the carnivore way of eating is that your body is using everything that you're putting into it. The waste that you produce is minimal because your body is able to actually use, it's bioavailable, all of the stuff that's going into it. And so what starts to happen is the fat goes in and things start changing and things start healing. You start to heal on a cellular level. You start to heal on a biological and organ and a whole system level. And so you end up in this place where health is there. Health is your homeostasis. You're at homeostasis. Health is your home base. And when health is your home base in that way, then you are far less likely to become unwell. So your need for external support, your need for medicines, and a lot of people come off their medications, come off their supplements on this way of eating because they're getting everything that they need from their diet. And when that's the case, then you can just ride that. You should be able to just ride that. And that should be enough for you. Your body should be able to produce everything that it needs as you need it. But what I'm talking about with the phytomedicines, with the natural medicines, is that if something does happen that's out of the ordinary, then you can have a little bit of this little thing over here. You'll see in the movies where they just pick a few little leaves and they crush them up, boil them, drink it, and that's enough. That's not enough for us in our desensitized state. But there is stuff that's useful in these plant foods if they're not consumed all the time, if they're not at a toxic level or they're not at a desensitized level, and it's not something that you're doing all the time, then there can be phytomedicines that can be very helpful, and they're even more potentized and even more extreme, the response in the body, and they're needed less and less. It might only be 1 dose of garlic that you need to kill that bacteria that's infesting that wound that's on your arm. And so we have this more sensitive response and reaction to natural medicines when we actually need them. If we know what we're looking for, and if it's something that's outside of the norm or something that is extreme or unexpected or that needs a little bit of that extra external support, no need for other kinds of medicines. And so I started to understand that that's how we resensitize ourselves to the phytochemicals and to the phytomedicines when we need them, to these natural medicines when we need them. But the need for them becomes like, it might only be once every 10 years or something, when something extreme happens to help heal a wound or heal a broken bone, or if something happens unexpectedly to support the immune system in the body. But you wouldn't stay on that stuff because that would desensitize you, and then all that toxic kind of overload, complicated stuff from the plant is able to settle in if you're taking it for any significant amount of time. So I've started to understand all of this, and this has all started to make sense. And so I decided that I needed to try it. I needed to try it out. I needed to see what the fuss was all about. And me personally, my body is strong. And I'll tell you about some of the things that I've struggled with in my body. But my body's robust. My body is determined. My body has always taken care of itself and taken care of me. And it's an obedient body. And it makes the most of whatever goes into it. There have been times where I've eaten badly, and I've been really surprised at my blood results that have shown that my body's taken that bad food and actually turned it into what it needed so that it could stay healthy to some degree. But there have been some things that I've always struggled with. And these things that I've always struggled with are so common. I see it so much in so many of my clients, and especially the women. And those things that I've always struggled with is I've always had on the low side iron, but mostly ferritin, my iron stores. So iron has always been something that I've struggled with, but I've also struggled with iron supplements. Some forms of iron supplements, my body just rejects and I break out in rash. It's the only thing that has ever caused me rash, that kind of reaction. So there are some forms of iron that my body just can't handle or will not take. And whenever I've supplemented with iron, it's always gotten to a point where it's been like, I can't handle anymore. And I think it's just that artificial iron thing that's then conflicting with all these other things that I'm trying to take in and trying to absorb. And it just feels like this mess that kind of cascades until my body goes, no more. We can't do this. So I've always had the low iron. Vitamin D has always been something that's been on the low side, and I see this a lot as well. I get out in the sun a lot, but for some reason my body just has struggled with the vitamin D. The other thing that I've struggled with, and that I only noticed in 2017, so I only realized what was going on 6 years ago, is a bit of thyroid antibody stuff. And I don't like to diagnose myself with Hashimoto's because I just don't like diagnoses in that way. And I feel like it puts you in a box that then takes you down this big spiraling loop. And I did not want to get caught up in any kind of loop or any kind of medication stuff. I just wanted to take care of it myself. And my thyroid hormones themselves have, my body's always managed that. There has been times where T3's been a bit low. There's another time where T3's been a bit high. So it's a bit up and down. And the thyroid antibodies have always been on the low end. So since I discovered this in 2017, the thyroid antibodies have been, they were like 100 and something. And then at their worst, they jumped up to like the 250s. And I've managed to get it down to, it just stays around like the 80 mark. So it's not crazy, but at the same time, my body is always very lightly, very gently attacking my thyroid. And I haven't been able to shift that. What I have done is I've improved it. When I realized some years ago, or discovered some years ago, that I have an MTHFR, a double MTHFR gene mutation, which is basically a mutation of two genes in the enzyme that is responsible for converting folate into its useful form. So there's folate, but it needs to be converted into its useful form so that it can do the job that it needs to do in the body, like bringing homocysteine levels down and improving cardiovascular health and iron absorption and a whole bunch of other stuff. So when I discovered that, I started supplementing with methylated folate, biomethylated folate. So that's the active form of folate. And I did find that helped my iron levels, and it helped my thyroid antibodies to kind of level out and stabilize at about 80. And they've just kind of chunked away there since then. I also noticed when I did that it helped with my heart, and the heart hasn't always been an issue for me. And you might be seeing a bit of a theme here if you've got any kind of understanding in biochemistry. There's some kind of mineral deficiency that's going on here that's causing all of this together. So I've just always had a little bit of a thing with the heart where it's not always, but it can do these weird kind of palpitating beats or be beating hard. Or have that kind of breathless thing where I just know that my heart's not quite, it's like it's kind of doing an arrhythmic kind of thing, out of beat and out of tune. So that's a mineral thing. That's an electrical thing that's going on in my body. And all of these things feel like they're tied together. And it's always been the minerals that have stabilized that. As soon as I take minerals, heart settles, it's all good. My blood pressure has always been low, probably I think 70 over 110, 100-ish is probably about where it's at. My pulse has always been slow. Veins are deep. I've always had that kind of slow, steady, chunking away at it thing. But anyway, those are the health conditions that I've experienced in my body. And none of it's horrendous. None of it's horrific. I've always managed without any medications. No medications. I've supplemented with iron. I've supplemented with bioactive folate. And that's it. Otherwise, I've just managed it. And I used to feel lethargic. Don't have the lethargic thing. Don't have the drained of energy thing. Everything else in my body has been great. I've always had good skin. No skin problems. Good bowels. Everything's been fine. So my body's been doing a really good job at taking all of this crap that I've been putting into it and then using it as a way of managing to use some of it to keep me going and to keep me strong, keep me healthy, keep me robust. I've never really had problems with weight. So that's not like a huge factor for me. That's not something that's a really big concern for me. Hormones, good. Hormones, fine. Never had any problem with my female sex hormones. That's all good. But I do see it a lot in clients. And these things in particular, I'm seeing a lot of MTHFR gene mutation. I see a lot of vitamin D deficiency. I see a lot of low iron. I see a lot of thyroid problems, which is concerning. And that's all these anti-nutrients and chemicals and synthetic foods that aren't foods that we're eating that are causing this stuff and causing these imbalances in the body. And I also see a lot of women with hormone issues. Nearly every woman is experiencing hormone issues. And some of these clients I've been working with for months and months and months, and we make shifts and we make gains and things get a bit better, but it's like we can't quite round out or catch what's going on and what's happening. And so I decided to do a bit of a dummy test on myself and try the 30-day carnivore diet challenge. However much parts of me were going, this is so weird. It's just this that's going, this is so weird. My body's going, yes, let's try it. Let's give it a go because this is going to be good for us. And so I've decided to give it a go. I'm now 3.5 weeks in. I'll do a separate video where I talk about how that experience has been and what I've been going through as a part of that. But I just kind of wanted to lay the foundation for it and give a bit of information and a bit of background into what's going on here, what's happening here, and to check in with my markers and to check in with my own health improvements as well. I also have a friend who I've been working with as a client for a long, long time, who's got an array of health issues, including terrible lungs, really difficult breathing, coughing all the time, and weight gain, and just he's a high stress job for a long time. And so the weight gained, nice big belly. It feels like a cortisol response to me, but it was like no matter what I did, we couldn't quite shift it. And there's stuff that we've done that have helped the lungs. We did a super duper high fiber thing that shifted some of the weight and shifted some of the toxins out of the body, so he got a bit of relief and started to feel a little bit better. But it's stalled, of course, because the body desensitizes, and I've always had this a little bit of a frustration at not knowing exactly what it is that's going to help him, and at different times he's felt like this is it, I'm going to go down with this, there is nothing that can be done. And so he's gone onto the carnivore diet with me, and is also 3.5 weeks in, and it's incredible, it's insane. Already immediately the coughing was reduced by 95%, and now it's just a clearing of the throat every now and then, rather than a constantly hacking thing, especially after eating. or if there was something that he's sensitive to, like dust or something around, then he'll have a little bit of a cough or a splatter. But it's insane. It's incredible. And I'm also seeing his body shape changing before my eyes. It's only been 3.5 weeks, and his entire, I mean, it's not like all the weight's gone suddenly, but I've never seen it shift so quickly in him before. So this gives me hope and makes me a little bit happy as well. And I'm starting to see and understand the different kinds of clients that this way of eating may be good for, like the stressed, overweight person who just can't shift that cortisol weight, and these women that are suffering with hormone issues, low iron, thyroid, lethargic. I'm just starting to see and to understand how it all comes together. And maybe we'll check in, and hopefully there'll be more updates, and I'll let you know how it's going for me personally, and how I'm doing it and how I feel. But for now, just wanted to introduce that, just wanted to put that to you. And I know that it's shocking, and I know that it's the opposite to everything that we've been taught. But what we've been taught ain't right. It ain't right. It's not the optimal way for our bodies to function. And I really feel that switching this gear from becoming a fat storer to becoming a fat burner, it's exciting. It's like it's full of this kind of life force and vitality and abundance and joy and agility for the body that this fat storing thing just doesn't have. So we'll see how it goes. I'll do another video where I let you know how it's gone for me and what I've experienced, and a bit more of my background in eating as well. But yeah, just wanted to start here. I hope that that's triggered you a little bit, but not so much that you won't listen to what I have to say.